conversation around Ariana Grande. What's particularly troublesome about that version of problematic eating is that the body does a lot of work to create urgency when it's absolutely necessary. So when someone gets to the point that hunger pains don't create urgency or the reaction that the body needs, we're in a different kind of space. And this is where that synaptic process and that prefrontal cortex relationship becomes important. And it's a variant of how I describe mania. Not necessarily that person, no, they can be manic. Because I've met people who have expressed getting angry about being hungry. And it's because they are fighting with everything in them to not eat because of the fear or the danger of eating and the potential of weight gain. This to me is what we should be focusing on when we're talking about fat phobia, because there is a version of fear of fat that is lethal, not just dangerous, but lethal, and is very effective in taking people out to the point that they will do things like, and specifically people with this sort of eating habit, they'll say stuff like, I'm just going to take a nap. I had a friend years ago who talked about her model friends that would do things like take cotton balls and put them in liquid, like an orange juice, like a soda, anything like that, and drink the liquid out of the cotton ball because they wanted the taste of a certain thing, but they didn't want the caloric contributions of that food. And so when we're having this kind of conversation, this is how come it's so important for you to not say things like, "Oh, she looks crazy." It's because the idea of how they look is what makes them not want to eat. Do you understand what I'm saying? So everybody jumping up and saying that she looks this way, she looks that way, she's promoting this and she's promoting that. What you are doing is you are activating that part of the brain that is telling her, you know what? I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. It's facilitating worry, anxiety, and fear, which is going to automatically detach the prefrontal cortex from that process. Because remember, if you are indeed met with a threat, your body is going to prioritize safety. And if your form of safety includes not eating, if you talk about a person's body and you activate the fear in their brain, what are you doing? You're setting them up to believe in the safety metrics that they have already established inside of their brain. This is what this kind of unhealthy eating or this type of eating habit suggests. And this is why, if you see Ariana, just go onto her page and tell her that she's beautiful and that we're happy to see her. Of course, you were looking at it and saying, oh, I don't want to enable it and I don't want this and I don't want that. I'm going to say this with nothing but love. Babe, it's not about you. Especially if you're just looking out for her well-being in that process. When we talk about the other end of that spectrum, and we talk about somebody like a Samyra, for instance, again, I was a chubby kid in the 90s. I know what it was like, right? Like, I'll insert the pictures of them talking about Britney Spears, right? I'm not surprised that Britney is at the point that she's at where she's just not okay, right? And that's because there was a lot of scrutiny that was normalized. A lot of people don't know this, but Beyonce, in her check on it video, I remember watching like a behind the scenes on like MTV or something like that, and they were actually reducing her hip size because her butt was too big and her hips was too wide. So when you hear Tina Knowles talk about like having to make their clothes and you know the lack of accommodations for Beyonce's body type, that's a real thing. That's a very, very real thing. When we used to buy jeans back in the days, yeah, we couldn't get our fluffy butts in them jeans. We couldn't do anything. And so my own personal experience looks a lot like when I was a kid, they used to take us to endocrinologists. They used to think that something was wrong with our glands, right? They would take us to I think we even had conversations with social workers and things like that, right? It was a little bit of everything. And our weight, because me and my sister are heavier. So it's three of us, but my oldest sister, tall, slim joint. So I'm a tall, heavy joint. She a tall, slim joint, and my older sister, she like right in the middle, regular. But when we grew up, we got a lot of fever. We couldn't wear a lot of clothes, and our experience was bad. And I will say, just being transparent, I think that the opportunity, the inclusion with clothing and everything else is light years ahead of what it used to be back when we were kids. Full stop. So I'm going to also preface this with I am a person. I could probably be argued to be fat phobic. I'm not going to pretend, right? I think that I've been through enough and I've had weight gain, weight loss. I'll insert a picture of like, the smallest that I was. And to speak to that nature of fat phobia and the psychology around it, right? Like I remember when I got to this place in my life and was saying like, it's just not enough. And I had a friend, my good friend was like, sis, what else is the goal? Like, what are you trying to obtain? And there was some dissonance about what I had done and how well I had done. And in essence, sabotage is on the horizon. You're going to mess it up because you feel like you can't accomplish anything. And ultimately, like, sis, put the weight back on, right? And so now we're back at the drawing board. And what I will say has been my mantra moving forward is for what I took for granted in aesthetic, I lost in functionality. So this is the part of the conversation of like the fat phobic thing and whatnot that I just can't get behind. From what I've seen, I don't follow Samyra. I don't get into her thing per se. I'm like, yo, you've been in this place, you've made your arguments, but all you've done simultaneously is also, put on more weight. And I mean this with nothing but love and respect. If there is a space in her life where she is waking up and her body hurts, her hip hurts, anything like that, and she's not explaining that and being honest about that, I think that that is a disservice, right? If she's not talking about the decline in cardiovascular capabilities, then that's a disservice. If she's not giving some feedback on the fact that doctors is like, hey, by the way, we're looking at you and you might be pre-diabetic, I think that that's a disservice because there's nothing wrong with existing in the body that you exist in and getting to the place in which you are best healthy, right? And that doesn't mean that you're going to be 100 and something pounds. I'm not telling you that you need to do that, but I think that it's a bit dishonest to act like 300 pounds is not a lot to walk around with. And I'm saying that as a person that's 5'9", 5'10". Like it doesn't make sense. Like there is no life that I'm going to share with y'all and tell y'all like, yeah, by the way, if I make it to 300 pounds, like, oh yeah, it's all good. Yeah, like I'm great. It's just not true. It's just not true. As a person that gets on the stair climber, as a person that lifts weights, I squat 2 plates, I do all of the things. I am not a person that's going to sit here and tell y'all like, yeah, it's way easier now that I've put weight back on. No, that's not true. That's not true. But what I will say is that the experience in childhood makes it very difficult to confront the perception of failure when you are inside of a fat body. And I want to make that part clear. And I think that this is also why, this is me inferencing. I don't know this for a fact, but this is why I believe Samyra works so hard to prove that she is right and she pushes forward how educated she is in this process.
Barbie. This Barbie graduated from Harvard in 2021. She ran Harvard's campus, quite literally. Even the deans had ravishing things to say about her. As a first-year student, she won Harvard's Community Creation Award. Fast forward to her senior year, where she was voted first marshal of her class, and eventually would land her first cover page, the Harvard Crimson. Vogue is next. Well, this Barbie's late to lecture. I have a feeling one day she'll be teaching one.
Because essentially, if you were fat, when we were kids, if you were fat, you were a failure. Full stop. This is actually the backbone of the relationship that I had with the trainer that I first started working out with. And he introduced me to like heavy weightlifting and so on. I'm gonna maybe I'll share a picture of him because he's since passed away because of colon cancer. So that's my guy, but he's an important part of my workout journey. Before him was my younger brother. And I'll give y'all a full run through of that story another day. But one of the things that we connected on, he similarly thought, because he's a skinny guy. And he was like, yeah, when people see people like us on opposite ends of the spectrum, they think that we're weak. They think that we don't have anything to offer. But notice that the recurring theme is the perception of inability in oneself. So when I see somebody like a Samyra that comes out and makes these arguments and suggests that people should read a book, and she weaponizes her intellect in this kind of way, and again, this is just perception. So forgive me if my language is a bit candid or comes across a bit harsher. This is just how I see her. Um, she's kind of, and this is the segue, right? For, and again, my perception, the conduit for people to develop these kinds of self-centered, or what we would argue is kind of narcissistic sort of personality types, where the issues that they've been confronted with in childhood and throughout their life become their identity in a way that they are going to fight back, if you will. And in most cases, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I don't want to sit here and act like sitting around and being a victim of your circumstances necessarily an issue. It's that, what does it look like? And are you actually becoming more well-rounded? Are you well-rounded? That's pretty funny. Uh, or are you existing inside of a pendulum swing, right? Have you just overcorrected and ended up on the other side? And now you are an aggressor rather than a genuine advocate. And again, I don't think that she wants to be just this bad person. I think that she's been through a lot of stuff. And the pathology that moves her now is still rooted in the pain of all of the things that she, quote unquote, wasn't good enough to do, couldn't get into. Like, I can tell you this, all right? As a kid, there's a bunch of stuff I remember. Childhood story. Jumpers, right? Everybody had a jumper. I forgot what they call them now, but you put your jumper on or whatever. And I had a jumper like outfit. And one of the early, like, kids is gonna be mean to you type of situations. I had put on this jumper, and instead of wearing the shirt over the jumper, I wanted to wear it under the jumper, but I was a chubby kid. And I remember, I will not forget how my mom's looked at me and she asked me, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I want people to see that I'm wearing my little jumper. Like, I'm a part of the cool kids. And not to mention, we also grew up poor. So it's not like I didn't have a lot of stuff. And as soon as I had an opportunity to fit in, the first thing I want to do was fit in. Like, shit. I took my ass to school that day and they had a fucking field day with my ass. And to the point that I went into the bathroom, and I was in probably, I want to say like second grade. No funny shit. I went into the bathroom and I like undid the jumper and I took the shirt out and put the shirt over the jumper because of now. And I remember my mother's face, because as young as I was, I understood that I was making a mistake, but I wanted to do something different. And that was one of those moments where, she used to say, those that don't hear will feel. And I think that she was letting me learn my lesson, right? So if she had a suggestion, it was like, "Oh, you do what you're supposed to do, what I tell you to do, and I'm trying to protect you from things." And sometimes you can't protect people from things, right? And if I'm being all the way honest, like, yo, to date, that's a core memory, right? So I'll share with y'all conversations from personality psychology, where we talk about narrative identity, where there are certain things that you go through in life that will shape how you perceive yourself, and inevitably will become the backbone of your personality and how you present yourself and how you interact with folks. And again, going back to our little stimulant interaction, right? How you deal with the environment and what things shape your personality. We'll save that for another day. But if I have experiences such as that, and Samyra is even smaller than I was, right? Like, so again, I was always a pretty tall kid, but I was a chubby kid. And existing in that space, there's a part of me that valued things like education. Like, I always thought that I could work harder to be a better person and be received better. And in essence, that would change my trajectory and my happily ever after would come. So if you notice my last video, I'm having this conversation where I'm at the point where I'm tired, because I'm like, yo, it doesn't matter. People are going to have an issue. People are going to see something wrong with you. There's always going to be something to adjust, correct, fulfill, satiate, change, anything like that. And you have to ultimately make the decision on what it is that you want to do and how you're going to do it. The difference with me and my experience is that I'm existing inside of my own little bubble and figuring out my personal framework. And the empathy that I've developed, and I'm really, really grateful for, I really want to facilitate folks having a sense of like, yo, you're not crazy, bro. Like, some people mismanage certain things. Some people say the wrong things. Some people don't realize the impact of the things that they say. Some people are hurt people that are just hurting more people. And the sooner that you can embrace that sometimes these things happen, and it's not always personal. It's not to say that it won't ever be, because there's some people that's going to meet you and have an issue with you because it's you. It's not to say it won't ever be, but sometimes it's just how people are, because they haven't contended with the fact that, your feelings are hurt, and in essence you've chosen to be this person that's bad, or that's hurtful, that's selfish, that's self-centered, all of these different things. There's a particular attribute that I keep thinking about, and this came to my mind beforehand when talking about, or when reflecting on what happened with Grand Platna in Maine, when he decided that he was going to go with the grassroots thing, right? Like, so I feel like Palm people are looking for their Mamdani, right? So we had our Obama era, and there's a whole conversation about whether or not Obama was the person that he needed to be, and how good or bad he was, and that sort of thing, and that he was a centrist and whatnot. And I think that having this conversation, we realize that uh, ideologies are relatively fluid, right? Like, once upon a time, the conversation around being fat looked very different than what it looks like now. But again, that's another conversation for another day. I tell you no lie, I'll take an Obama 15 times over what we're going through currently, but that's just my opinion. But the whole thing with Grand Platinum, he came in with the grassroots kind of mentality, taking on that New York Mamdani kind of approach with getting into the Senate. My personal opinion, just as a sidebar, is that I think that we have this changing of the guard that's happening now. If you notice what happened with Mitch McConnell, people are passing away. There was the other guy, was it Lindsey Graham, I believe. People are passing, like, those seats are going to become vacant. We're having this shift. So people are doing what they feel is necessary and appropriate so that they can win the majority. They can win the popularity. They can get what they need from you so that they can be in the seats that are beneficial to themselves. Only to find out that Grand Platinum was a racist and all this other stuff, and he was a rich guy that decided to join the military because he liked busting guns. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. The primary focus of why I bring that up is this idea of the weaponization of virtue, where we have, like, this, again, this conduit, this river of, I'm going to go from malignant narcissist to covert narcissist by way of pretending that I'm a good person and I mean well. And I don't think that everyone starts out in that malignant narcissist kind of thing. I think that it starts out with this kind of, I had a bad life, or I have this idea about who I should be and how I should be recognized, and people don't get it yet. And I need to help them understand it. And because we have all of these buzzwords like fatphobia, like homophobia, like grassroots, like affordability and advocating for the people, socializing or operationalizing these kinds of social concerns and conversations, people are absolutely monetizing and capitalizing on people's fears, discomforts, and disservices. But the conversation that exists between Ariana Grande and Samyra is rooted inside of this personal experience that looks like, how do I make the world feel better for myself? Ariana has come out and explained that she's the healthiest that she's ever been. And I think that we have to just take her word for it. There's no way that we can have a conversation that's going to dictate that she should be this way and she should be doing this, and it's automatically going to change. The idea that we believe that we can shame people into better behavior is just not true. And especially if we are under the impression that she is struggling with not eating and she's okay with not eating, the probability that it can actually be that she goes to sleep one day and not wake up because she genuinely doesn't have the nutrients to survive, we really got to be better at how we show up and we look out for people by that way. The whole conversation with Samyra, listen, I'm not mad at pointing out people having an inappropriate thought process. But what I'm not going to pretend is that excess weight yields a typically poorer quality of life. And even if you lived a long life, if you live a long life sitting at the edge of your bed because you're not mobile, what point is that? What good does that do? Even if it's not right now, do you think that your hips, your knees, your back can maintain and manage excess to that extent indefinitely. You do not deserve going to the gym and feeling like you shouldn't be there. I don't think that that shit is okay. You should not go to for a walk or go into a store, grab a bite. Nothing that you do should warrant you being harassed or mistreated under any circumstances. Because you being fat is just being fat. I'm a fat nigga too. I get it. I get it. At the same time, don't be so afraid of confronting that concern or that issue on the basis that you feel like it's a version of failure. If you're anything like me, it's a version of failure that you can't overcome. If you've done it before, if you've done it in the past, you can do it again. And it's not going to be easy. Hey, listen, it takes a level of delusion for you to get up and do something like that every day to say, I'm going to correct it. But I think if you start to recognize your ability to do something more, right? Like I see little videos and I get teary-eyed about it when people say like, yo, like I could never jump before. Or like I couldn't bend down to tie my shoes. Do you understand how much I miss being able to bend down and tie my shoe and it don't hurt? Like, oh, and I could breathe? Come on, son, stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. When I was in my good days, when I tell you I used to be on that stair climber giving people hell, like, cause you gotta have secret competitions on the stair climber when you get on the stair climber in the gym with other people. But here I am, right? And one of the things that I'm most grateful for is the fact that I have the ability to revisit that and do it again. In this time where I mentioned to y'all, like, the person that trained me is no longer with us. Like he wasn't 40, he was 38. And another friend of mine's who also had weight issues, dude, and he a stroke, yep, passed away, 42. What I'm saying is that we can't determine when the end will come, and I had a tough time there too, right? There was a time in my life where I was like, recently, hear me when I tell you, I'm like, yo, what is the point? And I'm like, well, the point is that if I gotta be here and I gotta do it, I want to be comfortable while I'm here. That's something that I said from years ago. I don't know how long my life is gonna be, but it would suck if I lived to be 100 and I never got to be comfortable in the time that I was doing my life thing. If I lived to be 50 and I'm like, shit, I was not comfortable while I was doing. So, and even if it ends bad, like even if it comes down to it and it's like, yo, I'm sick and I'm in the hospital, all of the days leading up to it, if it was good, I'm gonna take it. If I got to be strong all the way up until that point, I'm gonna take it. So dare I encourage you to not be, don't be afraid of that stuff. If you anything like me and my friend was, where it's like, yo, you feel like, yo, I fucked up. It's okay. We all do. We all do. But that was it. I really just wanted to get that off my chest a little bit. I feel like it's more I could talk about, but maybe I'll save it for another time. And I'll circle back. We gonna talk. We got enough to talk. Bye now.